If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 243 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on November 24th of the year 2024. Yet another extra large order, yet off-season order, I should say, of the Yappuccino. And we are back again. Thank you. Oh my gosh. It's been a while, guys. Yeah, you guys remember from the last episode a few weeks ago. It has been 3 weeks. The last time I spoke to you was on November 3rd. If you could believe it. A number of days after the most embarrassing World Series to date for the Yankees, I would say, had come to a close, at least in my lifetime. I don't know about your lifetime. I did have a discussion like that on Twitter with a bunch of people. Hundreds of people replied to one of my tweets weeks ago in regards to what they felt in their lifetime was the most embarrassing Yankees World Series. And a lot of people said this one, so doesn't seem like I'm all ridiculous for saying that. But if you remember the last time we did talk on November 3rd, my friends, I did say something along the lines of needing to take a break from our beloved boys in pinstripes because, yeah, the World Series really, as silly as it might sound to some people, it did a number on me. That fifth inning alone, all these weeks later, I have still not come to terms with the fact that that fifth inning actually happened in reality, and it wasn't some sort of simulation. So I definitely needed a break after all that, and plus I also had a lot of big things coming up that needed my full attention that I'll get to in a second when it comes to what specifically I'm talking about. Because of all these things, though, it really seemed like the right time for a break. If I'm being really honest, I just didn't feel like talking about the Yankees for a while. Obviously, I knew I had to put a bow on the year of 2024 in regards to the Yankees at least, and talk about how things ended up wrapping up ultimately. But after that, I was saying I don't really feel like talking about them for a while. Right now, I still don't even really feel like talking about them 100% if I'm being really honest with you. But I knew I had to come back at some point. I don't want to stop doing the show altogether entirely. So I knew I had to come back eventually. And next Sunday happens to be Thanksgiving weekend, or at least the end of it. So I'm not going to want to do a show next weekend, obviously. So I'm like, why don't I just come back on the 24th and do an episode for you guys again? Nice 2 Sundays in a row off, resulting in 3 full weeks since the last time we've spoken. And it's all good. About time we come back and discuss some of the things that have happened these last 3 weeks or so. And quite a bit has happened. So we do have quite a bit of catching up to do. But in regards to next Sunday, as a reminder, because it is Thanksgiving weekend, and a happy early Thanksgiving to all of you. It's not for another 4 days, of course, at least as of the time I'm recording. Don't know when you're listening, but at the time I'm recording, 4 days away from Thanksgiving, and ahead of time, I do want to wish all of you out there a very happy Thanksgiving, and safe Thanksgiving, that is, as well. But there will be no episode next Sunday because of the holiday weekend, but today officially begins the usual, at least usual as of last year, the usual off-season Yapping Yankees format, which happens to be a bi-weekly format. Unless in the event something major happens, in case you're a new listener, this is what the deal is for Yapping Yankees in the off-season that I started last year. I still did an episode every Sunday, even during the off-season before last year, from 2019 up until last year. But the deal is, ever since last off-season, and I'm carrying that into now, in 2024, I do an episode every other Sunday. And it's not because I don't have enough content to carry me through weekly, because, hey, like I said before, I did do episodes every single Sunday during the off-season just before last year for the better part of 3 or 4 years, at first for the show. So it's not a matter of that. It's just because during the winter, I like to just relax a bit more. We pump out a lot of content during the regular season. Not that I don't enjoy doing it, but we pump out a lot of content, especially in an offseason like this one where things ended real sour for the Yankees, despite them making the World Series. I understand that's a big deal. But with how things ended, especially this offseason, but also just to give a little bit of a breather after all the hard work that's put in during the year. And, it's weekly for the most part for 8 months out of the year, so why not during the offseason take a little bit of a breather, kick the old feet up for a little bit, and just do every other week. So that is what I will be doing again this offseason. Every other Sunday. Since last year, we have done episodes during the offseason, except in the event that something major happens. For example, even though I'd really rather not do an episode next Sunday in particular because of the huge holiday weekend, let's say Juan Soto signs somewhere this coming week. At some point from tomorrow until next Sunday. Let's say he signs, whether it be the Yankees or anybody else. Next Sunday, I would be bringing another episode to talk about it immediately. So, depending on the huge scale of it, the bi-weekly format may be broken. And it was a time or two last year in 2023. Hell, speaking of Soto, I think the trade with San Diego was one of the ones that broke the bi-weekly format. I think I had to do 2 episodes in a row, 2 Sundays in a row when that happened, which I have no problem doing. If it's something that's not that big of a deal, then I'll still stick to the bi-weekly format. But if it's something massive, especially on the subject of someone like Juan Soto, then I will break the bi-weekly format and come back to you with another episode the very next Sunday. But otherwise, it's every other week through to when official games begin in spring training. So we did that last offseason. Again, we are adopting it again here this offseason. So this officially starts it now that we have returned after 3 weeks of silence. But I just had to take my hiatus, guys, because it was... After the World Series, I just had to. I just had to step away for a while. I really haven't even watched sports overall, really all that much whatsoever these last few weeks since I've even been on my Yankees and Yapping Yankees hiatus. I've even been much quieter on Twitter than usual. I'll put out a tweet every once in a while, but I usually always go quieter during the baseball offseason anyway, so it's nothing new, but especially since this hiatus began weeks ago, I've been even more quiet than usual. So just been taking a step away from everything, and it did me well. It felt good to step away for a while because, honestly, I do let the Yankees get to me that much. As ridiculous as some people might find that, or as unhealthy as some people might say that is, what can I tell you? I do care about the Yankees that much. When something on the scale of what happened in the World Series happens, call me ridiculous for it, but it rocks me to my core, and it really, really annoys the hell out of me to no end. It really, really does. So I needed the time away. I felt like I just wanted to take a break. I did that, and it served me well. Aside from that, there were also things that needed my full, undivided attention. And I'm glad to say now that it was worth it, after all, because a lot has happened, both for myself, as I had hinted to before, and I'll get to in just a minute, but the Yankees, roster-wise, even awards-wise, the whole nine, and we'll get to it all on this first, I guess you could say, 2024 off-season episode, because 3 Sundays ago, it wasn't a full-on off-season episode. It was really more of putting a bow on everything and wrapping everything up. But we'll get to all of that in a second with the Yankees. But like I alluded to before as well, a lot happened to me personally as well that really needed my undivided attention. I'm glad to say now, in hindsight, that it was all worth it. I will announce it right now. I already announced it on Twitter. I had mentioned on my account before that, a couple of weeks ago, that it was coming up. And it did officially pass this past Thursday. So for those who follow me on Twitter, you probably already know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, and might only listen on here or might only follow me on some other platform, whether it be Facebook or Instagram, and not on Twitter, I'm glad to announce that something that I was very nervous about for months, and I had mentioned it just a couple of times in the past bunch of months. Something that was happening towards the end of the year has officially passed, and it went well against my expectations, fortunately, because I'm not a confident person. But a lot of you might know that I left radio about a year and a half ago after I was manager of a station here on Long Island. And I had moved over to the finance industry. and I was going to start to take some exams in order to get licensed and to eventually become a financial advisor someday. Well, I'm pleased to report that the first exam that I've been nervous to no end about, or had been nervous to no end about, I should say, the first exam of a few officially passed just this past Thursday. I finally took it after months of studying. I had about a 500-page textbook to read. I had hundreds of pages in a workbook filled with slides originating from some online lectures that I was able to do and follow and write notes on most of, if not all of those pages. Took a bunch of practice exams over time that probably resulted in me seeing, 1,000+ questions.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I worked pretty hard. But it finally came to a head this past Thursday. I took the first exam. Any of you in the financial industry might know it. Some might not, because it is a newer exam that only came out within the last half decade or so. It's called the Securities Industry Essentials Exam, or the SIE for short. I finally took it this past Thursday. And again, fortunately, against my expectations, I did not think I was going to do well, especially judging by my practice test results. I took the exam, and I passed.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah, Stone Cold. But my God, the anxiety that went into this, and rightfully so, because, they say fear and anxiety is just a sign that you want it that bad. And I did, and I got it done. Fortunately for me, I will say this, even though the test itself was definitely not easy by any stretch, but without going into specifics, of course, because I'm not allowed to do that, nor would I ever give away any of the material that's on the test specifically, but I can definitely say it was easier than the practice exams that I took, at least on the platform that I used to study with. And I guess that's the purpose of practice exams. I'd rather them be harder than the test than be easier, because if they're harder, then it gets you that much more prepared for the test itself. So as torturous as it was, and as much as it completely and utterly annihilated any semblance of confidence I may or may not have even already had, it prepared me well, I guess, because I passed the damn thing. So that was definitely amazing. Thank you very much. And none believed in me, aside from my immediate family, of course, but none believed in me more than all of you on Twitter, and many of whom are probably listening right now. But I posted that I was getting ready for this exam, and even the times where I was feeling really down about my chances, I was tweeting about it and just airing my frustrations. And everybody was so supportive and loving and confident in me, and I'm thrilled to be able to say that you were all right and I was dead wrong. And I have never been happier to mutter those words ever in my life. So I just wanted to also say thank you all for believing in me the way you did and encouraging me to just go in there and kick ass, because that's what I did. I don't know the number grade that I got, because the paper that I got after it was over just said pass on it. So there's really no specific feedback. But the important thing is that this is the first step on my journey to being able to officially do business in the finance industry. I'm officially registered as of this exam. I'm with FINRA now in their systems. And now it's just a matter of taking the Series 7 and possibly the 63, a number of others. So once I pass those, then I'll be officially authorized to do business in the financial industry and the securities industry in particular. Right now, I can't do any. I'm just registered and all that good stuff, but this is the necessary first step to take on that journey to eventually being able to do official securities business, or be able to branch off into whatever aspect of the industry you would like. So this is a humongous first step for me. I'm so happy I passed, and I just wanted to say that, not only because I'm proud of myself, and I usually do not pat myself on the back ever. I really, really don't. You could ask anybody I know. I'm not one to do that whatsoever. I'm about as hard on myself as somebody could possibly be. But I am proud of myself for this, and I proved a lot to myself. I really did. And that's what really matters to me, ultimately, is that when I don't think I could do something, and then I actually end up doing it. Confidence is important. It's always been an uphill battle for me. But this was another reminder for me that I have to believe in myself at least a little bit, I guess, right? But thank you all for believing in me the way that you did, despite how I wasn't believing in myself, because it really did help push me across the finish line, I think. I really do think it did. So I am beyond excited to announce that, and I really had to crack down the last couple of months, even through when the World Series was going on. Even if you didn't know it, I was studying my ass off throughout all of that, while still trying to enjoy and properly cover all of that as well. But then especially amidst this hiatus leading up to the exam itself, this past Thursday, I had to lock the hell in, even more than I already did. And I'm glad to again say that it paid off. So if you wanted even more good reason for why I have been so silent for the most part, even on social medias, or even completely silent here for Yapping Yankees, I hope that and all of this is at least a good enough reason for you. Because that is the God's honest truth. I will be starting studying for the Series 7 probably within the next couple of weeks, so I'll be locking in for that for the remainder of the offseason as well. I will do my best to stick to the Yapping Yankees format as good as I can while I continue to study for all these things and get my financial career off the ground. I'll do all I can, guys. You know I will. Why wouldn't I? I mean, we're almost 250 episodes into this damn thing. If that doesn't prove how dedicated I am, then hell, I don't know what will. But some exciting personal news on that forefront. I have passed the SIE exam. I'll be moving on to even bigger and better exams to officially authorize me to do business in the securities industry. And up and onward, my friends, right? That's what you got to do. So that's on the personal news front. Beyond happy to say that. Again, if you follow me on Twitter, then you probably already knew I was going to maybe talk about it today, but you at least already knew it happened in general. So I just wanted to talk about that for at least a little bit. But otherwise, guys, yeah, in the last 3 weeks, between that and everything else that's been going on in the Yankee universe, let alone in the baseball universe, it's been eventful. And because of that, here we are, back again on November 24th in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. My God, where the hell did 2024 go? My guess is as good as anybody's. And I don't have a guess, so there's that. But regardless, we do find ourselves in the final week of November here. By the time we speak next, it'll be the last month of the year, which also means my birthday is also not too far away, and I'll be 28 soon. Wow. I know some people will be laughing at me for pretending like that's old, but time's flying for me, okay? Oh my gosh. But yeah, so it is the off season now. Last week of November. The winter meetings will be here before we know it, guys, because December is just around the corner. And with that comes the winter meetings about a week or two into it. And there are so many topics of discussion to go around in Major League Baseball. Hell, I mean, the friggin' Royals and the Reds just made a trade recently that sees Jonathan India headed to friggin' Kansas City. Anything could happen these days. But particularly with the Yankees, between the roster moves, between the awards, between avoiding arbitration, the tenders or non-tenders, and contract news, the rumor mill and hot stove, especially around the person who is on center stage this offseason, I think it's safe to say, Mr. Juan Soto. As you can imagine, our social media segment today will be all about him. Because, I mean, who the hell else is anybody talking about even more than they're talking about him? Absolutely nobody. That's the answer to that question. So it will be about Juan Soto. And we'll talk more about that, so I'll save that a bit for later, because I think it is safe to say that everything that there is to say about him has probably been said in one avenue or another throughout social media or any piece of content regarding the Yankees throughout the entire world. But we'll hit on that for a little bit later on. And basically where I've been at when thinking about the Yankees these last few weeks that I've been off, I haven't done a whole lot of thinking about them, if I'm being totally honest with you, because, again, I really did take a legitimate step back. And I'm still really not even fully back in to completely thinking about them in every sort of way from top to bottom the way I usually am by this time of year. And the interesting part is that usually by now, with December coming around the corner, I mean, hell, I usually start saying this immediately after baseball freaking ends. Right after. But this is when you know that World Series really rocked me to my very core. Because not only do I usually always say this right after baseball ends, but I'm still not saying this even with December right around the corner and baseball being gone for nearly an entire calendar month now at this point. But I usually always talk about how much I miss the sport. right after it ends and how much I can't wait for spring training. And you know that because I've always said this for years now here on Yapping Yankees. I started this show at the very beginning of the 2019 season, guys. I have covered 2019, or most of it rather. I just missed the month of April, really, and some of May. 2020, even through all the chaos and everything. 2021, 2022, 2023 last year, and 2024 this year that just ended. So when we go into 2025, that is right. That will be the 7th year of coverage on Yapping Yankees already. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's 6. And then 2025 will be year 7 of Yankees coverage here on Yapping Yankees. We've been around a while, so you have heard what I have said and understand my mindset if you have been a long-time listener, even since just last year. I was saying it last offseason too. Despite how much the 2023 team disgusted me, I was still saying it by the time baseball was over and we were without the Yankees for a while since they didn't even make the playoffs. I usually always go on and on about how I cannot wait for spring training and I miss baseball to no end. This year, guys, we're a few days off from December. And this is going to shock a lot of people to hear me say this. I do not miss baseball or even the Yankees even a little bit right now. Damn! Yeah, Farouk, damn is right. I don't miss it. I really don't. The World Series did that much internal damage to me. I don't miss it. As a matter of fact, I think the offseason is a perfect amount of time for me to finally try to get over this. I'll always remember it and it'll always really sting. But for me to even think about stomaching seeing the Yankees on the television again, I need this offseason to be as long as it is. I'm fine with it. I'm fine waiting until February. I have never said these words before in any baseball season in my entire life since I started watching baseball in 2007. So that's a big deal for me. It's definitely a huge change to experience the feeling of being in a baseball offseason and not missing it. I have always missed it terribly from the moment that it leaves me after the final game of the World Series each and every year, all the way through to when pitchers and catchers report in mid-February. It is agonizing usually. Guys, whether it be because of how much the World Series sickened me to my very core, whether it be because of my concentration being elsewhere, preparing for my exam, maybe a combination of both. I don't know. Could be the emotional damage, could be the distractions. I just don't miss it. So that's a huge piece of news, and I know you're all probably shocked to hear that, especially my long-timers out there. Because I'm like borderline, screw borderline, I blow the border out of the water. During the offseason, really unhealthily missing baseball every single offseason for months. And now I just don't even care. I'm fine that it's gone. I need a break this time. And it's crazy to say that after a year in which the Yankees made it to the World Series, but here I am. I mean, who the hell knows what to expect in today's world anymore, guys? You never know anymore. But I have been very much at peace since baseball left. I really haven't even put that much thought into the Yankees. I know specifically what needs to be improved, and I'm prepared to talk about that today. But I still just don't fully care about it as much as I usually do. Not nearly. I'm usually going crazy, coming up with all sorts of trade proposals and potential contracts and potential, I don't know, just rumors and any and other potential moves the Yankees could make. That's usually what I'm doing from the moment the season ends, talking about how the Yankees could improve and put an even better foot forward in the following season. I really have not done that. Even a lot of my family members, extended and immediate, a lot of personal friends, they've come to me constantly asking, Mike, what's going to happen with Soto? What do you think they could do elsewhere to further improve the team? What do you think is going to happen with the first base situation, the rest of the infield? How's Jason going to be used next year? What do you think the bullpen's going to be? Do they get another starter? Honestly, I haven't had much of an answer for any of it in the past few weeks because my concentration has been elsewhere, and quite frankly, I just don't want to talk about it yet. I really don't. Even right now, I don't fully want to talk about it, if I'm being fully honest with you. But again, I felt obligated to do an episode. I actually wanted to do an episode to a certain degree, though. just really not nearly as much in the mood to do it as I usually am. But we are back here again, and we're going to talk about it nonetheless. First and foremost, I guess you have to hit on the main man, and we'll talk about him more on social media, of course, but the one everybody is talking about is Juan Soto. And I guess this will lead me right into the remainder of Yankees news since we last spoke 3 weeks ago. But Juan Soto is on the forefront of any and all offseason discussion, I think it's more than safe to say. Because the Yankees aren't even the only ones he has spoken to. We've heard for weeks now he's met with the Blue Jays, he's met with the Red Sox, he's met with the Dodgers, he's met with the Mets, he's met with the Yankees even the last few days. I do very much like that as of the meetings, the Yankees had the last word. I really like that from a negotiating standpoint. I think it just gives them a good advantage that some might even say is needed, given the competitiveness of certain other organizations. But it's good to be able to say, if he's been given any offers, this is what they've given me so far, guys. What can you do for me? And it's good to have the last word with that kind of thing usually. So I do like that, but he's had his number of meetings, and I do have to say that I'm taking the offseason with an entirely different approach this time around. I did really take it for the last year or two with this approach as well, but it's hard not to give in sometimes, but especially because of just hit the microphone. My bad, sorry. But usually I give at least a little bit of credence to reports and rumors in past seasons, but particularly because of my emotional detachment that I have had this offseason, completely unlike any other, it's allowed me to stick to this even more so than usual. Like in the past, because of how much I care, I usually can't help myself, but this time, I've been able to do it more. But I am not listening to a single, and I mean a single rumor, single amount of clickbait, any sort of rhetoric about what Soto might be doing, which way he might be leaning, even if it's people who are claiming to know people directly tied to Soto himself, claiming to have any sort of sources. This has been happening for years, as we know, all across social media. I am done giving any sort of credit to it. And again, my emotional detachment this year in particular allows me to stick to that. I'm not listening to anything unless it is an official report of him signing a contract, putting pen to paper. And if it is only 2 people reporting on said contract signing, if it's not either of these 2 people, I am not listening to it. These 2 people happen to be, number 1, you're not going to be surprised by this because I always talk about how much I love the guy and how I think he is the only reputable reporter nowadays. Mr. Jeff Passan is number 1. If it's not from him, I don't care to talk about it. Or a second option I will entertain and listen to 99.9% of the time, if I had to say, because he is usually very responsible with his reporting as well. But that second person I speak of is Mr. Jack Curry of the S Network. If Jack reports on it, I will also listen. If it is anyone in the entire baseball reporting industry, in the entire media, if it is anyone else reporting on a potential Juan Soto signing or especially even a rumor of some kind, I could not possibly care less than I do right now. And they've been flying. The sharks are swirling, as you can imagine. They always are. All over the place. Oh, this meeting went very well. He seemed to really take a liking to this team. This person is willing to go that much more amount of money over any other organization. He really seemed to favor this side. It's really looking good for this side. The next meeting with this side could prove... I don't care. I actually do not give a crap to listen to any of this nonsense. I will only be present and talking about it, legitimately at least, when Jeff Passan or Jack Curry officially report that pen has been put to paper on an official contract signing, and no sooner. So I'm not addressing any of the rumors because I don't care to talk about them. I really don't. You've heard that Steve Cohen is willing to offer $50 million more than any other organization. You've heard Hal Steinbrenner actually really have some convincing quotes of late. And yeah, the quotes aren't just rumors, they're actual quotes. But they might lead to some people speculating and going down certain avenues that don't even really exist, and it's just their imagination running wild. I don't care to speculate or talk about anything of that nature. I just don't care. And you shouldn't either. Because whether it be John Heyman, Bob Nightingale, or any other clown out there in the baseball reporting media industry making fools of themselves in the past the way that they have, especially with the Ohtani plane tracking that took place last year. Remember that brilliant saga? If these aren't enough lessons to teach you that these things just don't mean anything, and a lot of reporters are nothing more than just a bunch of hacks looking to be first, then I don't know what's going to prove it to you. So just take my advice for it and just wait for something to officially happen, because that's what I'm doing. Not getting riled up about anything. Do I care? Of course I care. Because as I've said, I do think that the Yankees holding on to or losing Juan Soto will be not only an indicator, but some might even say the indicator as to the true direction the Yankees organization is headed down for years to come. So, yeah, getting Soto back means a lot to me. But I'm not putting any stock into what anybody has to say unless it is a reputable source. So I'm waiting patiently. I don't care who's saying they're going to offer this much more than the other organization. I don't care whose meeting went well. I don't care which way that some people are claiming he's leaning. We'll all know how he's leaning when he puts pen to paper. Then we'll know how he leaned. So we'll see. But right now, obviously, Juan Soto is at the forefront. He is the most important, and he is the ultimate difference maker to the Yankees. I know that some people are, being the clowns that they are, saying, oh, the Yankees are not a Juan Soto away from being a World Series championship team. Well, I mean, it quite literally did make the difference in having him on the team from barely even scraping past the first round for a bunch of years, just choking and coming up short of the World Series, to finally being sent there this year with him, no less on a home run that he hit in Cleveland. So, I mean, just don't consider that, I guess. That must mean nothing, obviously. We must be the stupid ones. But being a World Series championship team, well, the Yankees are going to learn how to stop playing like a bunch of boneheads for them to actually complete that journey. But to at least make it there, well, Juan Soto did, in fact, make a difference in that. And the proof is quite literally in what we just watched throughout the playoffs. So I don't really know what else you need to hear on that. But I do think that it is the ultimate factor to their success. If they lose him, if Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman, who everybody knows I hate, if they manage to actually let him walk, then I have said what I think is going to happen to the Yankees. They might be still a playoff team, especially considering how weak the American League was this past year, and if they plan on being that weak for any other years to come. Well, they might still sniff the playoffs in some sort of a way, but as far as making it to where they did in 2024, one would not be crazy to say that they do not believe in their chances to make it there again without his help. His defense may not be the best in the world, but just about everything else speaks for itself, guys. I mean, I think that's safe to say. I mean, the proof is in any sort of statistic you want to look at. But, yeah, I mean, you saw the electric that he provided. You saw the offense that he provided. And even at times, despite his defense not really being the best, I mean, in the past, he's been worse defensively, guys. And he did actually make a few good plays this year around, which he usually doesn't do. So, I mean, the fans love him. And we saw the energy. So, you don't need me to tell you all this. We know the deal. We spoke about it all year. So, I do think that people who were saying that Juan Soto might not be as important as some people think, I think there must be an internal mental deficiency somewhere, I think it's safe to say. Because there's really no other way to describe how dense you have to be to say that Juan Soto doesn't mean as much to the Yankees as some people may believe he does. Of course he means a lot. That's a given. And anybody would be thrilled to have him. Other than maybe Dodgers fans, because I've actually seen some Dodgers fans take to Twitter these last couple of weeks and say they don't want Soto, which is fine. Their team is freaking good enough as it is, and they just won the damn World Series. So, I mean, if anybody's allowed to say that, it's them, I guess. But, and again, they did that without even being at full health, even nearly, especially in the starting rotation. So, if they want to say that, fine, they can get away with that. But just about anybody else, I mean, if they got Juan Soto, they'd be over the moon. I mean, come on, stop pretending. But we'll see. I personally think, and I guess I'm sort of spoiling my response for the social media segment later with the question. And yes, the social media segment is back today after not having one the last time we spoke on the 3rd. But given the question in the social media segment, I am definitely spoiling my response to it a little bit, but I do think that the Juan Soto signing, regardless of who it's with, is going to be happening sooner rather than later. I do think that it'll be happening no later than the winter meetings, whether it be within the next few days or during the winter meetings. I don't think the winter meetings end with Juan Soto still being unsigned. I'll be surprised if they do. It's entirely possible if they end without him being signed. I just don't think they will. So keep an eye on that. Of course, the Yankees absolutely need him back. There's no two ways about it. There's really nothing else to say beyond that. We all know everything else that's been said, and by me or anybody else, because it's just the obvious, stating the obvious. But there are also a lot of other positions to attend to, and a lot of them are in results to some of the pieces of news that happened this past week. Some of them expected, some of them maybe not. I mean, we'll see, depending on how you feel. But obviously the Yankees are likely not bringing Rizzo back for next year, which as much as we love Rizzo on a personal level and how he was pre-concussion in 2023, it stings to hear that on a personal level, but when it comes to strictly on the field, that's the right move. He cannot be back next year. We've talked about this many times. So the Yankees need to come up with a solution for first base. You've heard about all the stuff with Gleyber Torres. You've seen his social media pages. He's taken everything having to do with the Yankees off of them. Now, it doesn't mean anything. He could still return, but the fact that he wasn't even given a qualifying offer is very surprising to me. That's probably the maximum of what I would have given him. I'm not giving him anything more than that. I think he at least deserved a qualifying offer for how he finished things off in the last couple of months, playoffs included. I think that definitely earns you some leeway, despite my objections to him before that. But nothing like that was offered. There's been no news on him. A lot of people are expecting him to leave. Honestly, I am right now too, because the only other way he sticks around is if the Yankees give him more than a year, I guess, unless they just come to terms on a separate one-year deal outside of a qualifying offer. They could still do that, but I think he's looking to secure a little bit more than that, and if that is the case, I do not want the Yankees bringing him back, and I'm more than happy with shaking his hand and saying, listen, Gleyber, thanks for the times in which you did good here throughout the years and how you finished off things. It was great. Thank you for everything. Best of luck. I'm more than fine with saying that. A lot of people are all of a sudden very nostalgic with Gleyber Torres on social media right now, and I am probably going to get chewed out for having that mindset on Gleyber, but that's fine. I mean, the second he starts screwing up again next year, I'm pretty sure people are going to just start barking up the tree that I'm barking up now with that mindset, and that's fine. But I'm fine with letting Gleyber walk if he wants more than 1 year. I do believe that he earned himself another potential year of chance with what he did to end things, but beyond that, I really don't want him back here. Definitely not 2 years or more. Hell no to that. Best of luck elsewhere, my man. So, if that's the case, then you got to figure out what to do at second base. You move Jazz back there because that's his natural position anyway, but if you do that, what do you do at third base? Because I know third opens up. You're obviously going to have Volpe at shortstop, but then depending on what happens with Gleyber, maybe third base will be open if you move Jazz back to second. I mean, who knows? A lot of things are up in the air. So the infield, bunch of question marks. Probably going to have Austin Wells behind the plate again. Whether Trevi is his backup again or not remains to be seen. We'll see if the Yankees explore another potential avenue because Trevi is under contract for 2025 before becoming an official free agent after 2025. But who knows if the Yankees choose to go down another avenue for backup catcher. We're not really sure. But pretty sure after the rookie year that Austin Wells had, obviously excluding the better part of the last month and entire postseason pretty much, excluding that, had a lot of its good moments, so they'll probably want to give him an entire season starting for 25. I'd be surprised if they don't. So we'll see what's made of Trevi, at least on a regular basis, when it comes to 2025. And then the outfield, well, a lot of that is predicated around what happens with Juan Soto as well, because if Soto doesn't come back, then you talk about potentially moving Judge back to right field, maybe giving Jason center field regularly since that's his primary position instead of left field. Obviously, I think we all hope and pray that Verdugo does not come back next year. I think we'll all be utterly baffled and disgusted if he does, and it'll probably mean something went wrong in the plans or just went the way it shouldn't have gone. So, the outfield, yeah, that's also majorly predicated on what happens with Juan Soto. Starting rotation, some people are talking about potentially making upgrades there as well. I mean, who knows? Right now, you still got the starting rotation being Garrett, Rodon, Schmidt, Heel, Nestor, and then if you want to Talk about a potential sixth option, even though he was barely used down the stretch at all, if at all, really wasn't at all. Marcus Stroman. So people talking about that potentially being upgraded. Who the hell knows? Bullpen, some moves to be made out there, some decisions. Yeah, anything could happen, guys. Take your pick on what you want to pick out. I mean, over the next bunch of episodes, we'll pick apart certain aspects of the team to discuss how they could improve, certain discussions that are going on. I mean, for first base, you're hearing rumors about Christian Walker possibly. A lot of people want him. Some people are talking about staying internal and teaching someone like Aaron Judge first base. Some of those discussions that are always going on, whether or not you think they're ridiculous. I happen to think that a lot of them are. But nonetheless, some people are talking about that potentially happening. Some people are talking about if Glaber is to leave and you move Jazz back to second at his natural position. Some people are saying get Alex Bregman from Houston to play third base on the Yankees. Could you imagine that crap? So a bunch of rumors are flying all over the place, as you could probably imagine. Even some people talking about the 3 or 4 potential players the Yankees could pick up if Juan Soto walks, as if he could just be replaced that easily. Newsflash, he can't, for those without common sense. But I know some people are saying out there that you could use all the money that you were planning on giving Soto to sign a number of other guys, but I mean, when is it even a guarantee that they will give even a fraction of the production and give a fraction of the energy that Juan Soto himself provides? So that's the only tough argument to make there in regards to that. But nonetheless, the rumors are flying. Sharks are swirling, as we've been talking about, like we talk about every year. That's what happens in the offseason, guys. And a lot of that, again, is in results of the news that we have seen over the course of the last 3 weeks. Let's discuss that a little bit. So I guess now's a good time to move into Yankees news. We'll go all the way back to around the last time we spoke, all the way back on November the 4th, because things started to happen right away. Like I said, right after the World Series ended, like Jorge Soler was dealt right away, and roster moves were being made by certain teams instantly, and just a bunch of things started to happen, and that continued right after the last time we spoke. First and foremost, leading off with, speaking of the starting rotation from before, our ace, Garrett Cole. Now, we were talking about Garrett having the opt-out option kick in for this winter, because that kicked in after the first 5 years of his contract that he signed from 2019 going into 2020, and that's where we are right now. And we were talking about in the last show, we could be seeing news on this in the very near future. And we did get news on that very shortly thereafter. It was weird news, but news nonetheless. Because it was news that he is, in fact, remaining with the Yankees on the 4-year and $144 million deal that he had opted out of in the first place. That's very weird because we all know that he did opt out and he was testing his market or just renegotiating with the Yankees, doing whatever. And we were talking about in the last episode that there is a time clock to doing that. So we did get the news on this day, the very next day on Monday the 4th. He did end up just choosing to stick with how the contract originally was because it was really weird, because we know that if the Yankees added on an extra year at the end, a 10th year ultimately could void all of this and just have things continue as normal. Yankees add on an extra year worth $36 million and wrap all this crap up. Or Cole could make things interesting and just continue into free agency and potentially sign elsewhere, or just what have you. Just a number of things could have taken place. I expected them to just add the extra year at the end. It was later revealed the Yankees did not want to do that. And then this just ended up being the final outcome. So it's essentially the same as of right now as if Cole did not ever even opt out. So they agreed to just stick with the status quo, with what was originally still owed on the contract. 4 years and $144 million remaining. You don't have to add on the extra year. Cole doesn't have to test out the free agent market anymore. They just agreed to just stay the course. So this is apparently born out of the fact that the Yankees, again, were not comfortable offering that extra year at $36 million. And apparently Cole must have just agreed with just moving forward. So the real question that I was left with after all this took place was, I was kind of confused as what the point of opting out even was. Or why there even was an opt-out option to begin with the condition of a 10th year voiding it if, at least from the Yankees' perspective, if you were uncomfortable with adding the 10th year to begin with. So why'd you add that option that a 10th year could void all this and add that opt-out condition with that 10th year option? That just confused me. I mean, unless they weren't uncomfortable with that at the time that the contract was originally signed after 2019, and they're only uncomfortable now, but even so, just a tad confused on that. I mean, maybe Cole also realized that his market wasn't as good as he thought, and maybe he wouldn't have gotten a better deal elsewhere than what was the remaining 4 years on the original contract. I don't know. Either way, obviously glad he's staying. Everything is as it was with his contract at this point. Obviously, people are talking about they're concerned about his elbow, saying that it's on his last legs and Cole's an injury risk and this and that. Well, if you feel that way, then I guess be glad that they just chose to stay the course with the original deal, with just the 4 years, 144 remaining. You don't have to add on that extra year. Just be happy they didn't have to do that, if you care about anything from the Yankees' perspective. And just be happy that there's no anxiety in regards to him potentially talking to other teams and even walking. I really never thought he was going to walk. If you remember me talking about this, I really found it hard to believe that Cole would even go anywhere. I really thought he was staying here. I just thought it was going to be via adding that 5th year, but it didn't even come to that. So he just kind of came to this weird agreement saying, yeah, you don't even have to do that with the 5th year. I'm going to stay. Whatever. So he's sticking around. We love that. Next up was the qualifying offers phase, which usually takes place a number of days after the World Series ends, of course, usually a week or two after. Soto was the main one who did receive a qualifying offer of $21.05 million for 1 year, which was completely to be expected, and obviously likely rejected it the nanosecond that he was offered it, also completely to be expected. And again, in that regard, just want to reiterate my surprise that Gleyber did not receive one, which makes me think all the more that he's just not going to be back. I mean, the Yankees could surprise us and again offer him a multi-year contract or just a separate 1-year deal worth less than the $21 million. And that would be fine with the 1 year for me. I'd be willing to do that, but multi-year, like I said before, no thanks. And in that case, yeah, it's starting to look like, and I could be wrong, but it's starting to look like Gleyber might actually leave. So we'll see what transpires with all that as time continues to move on. I have no idea where he might end up. It's hard to even imagine him not being here after he's been here since the moment he came up years ago. But we'll see what happens with Gleyber. Also on Monday, the Yankees did end up trading Taylor Trammell to the Houston Astros in exchange for cash, and did outright Duke Ellis off the Major League roster back to the AAA roster. He is off the 40-man, and Trammell is on the Astros in exchange for cash, if anybody cares about that. So that was all the news from Monday the 4th, and then nothing would happen for the rest of the week until Friday the 8th, which came to absolutely no one's surprise. But nonetheless, at the same time, to absolutely everyone's continued morbid torment and disappointment, especially yours truly, the Yankees officially announced that they exercised the club option for 2025 on Aaron Boone's contract. He had that club option we spoke about forever, saying that we would all be shocked if it wasn't exercised, especially because the Yankees are definitely going to use the excuse that they made the World Series, so why the hell would they let go of him? On top of the fact that he's always there for everybody and acting more like a therapist instead of a manager. Well, yeah, to nobody's surprise, but again, to everybody's morbid disappointment and absolute torment, never-ending torment, we're going to have Aaron Boone for at least another year. So, the dope will be back for his 8th freaking year as manager next year. 8th year. Can you imagine? He has been the manager for that long already. I don't believe it. Cannot believe it. 8th year. This idiot is going to be, quote unquote, managing the Yankees again. Yeah. So, that's that. And also to nobody's surprise at all, and I'm honestly surprised it didn't happen even sooner, because you guys remember what I said about talks for a potential even further extension for him. But Hal Steinbrenner and the rest of the front office were talking about an extension for Aaron Boone coming in the near future, which, again, no one is shocked to hear. The only thing I would be shocked to hear is that it is any less than a 90-year extension, because we are never going to be rid of this man, ever. He'll be around to torment us until we're not on this earth anymore. He's never going to go anywhere, ever. This will be the manager for the rest of time. So expect at least an 87-year extension. That's my advice to you, so you're not too disappointed when it ultimately does happen. But yeah, at least as of now, as far as official news, so far only his option has been exercised for next year. We knew it was there, and all knew it would be exercised. So the moron will be back managing the Yankees for an 8th year. I just can't believe that much time has passed since Girardi already, bro. It's wild. Cannot believe that. Then on Saturday, this is an interesting discussion. Yet another year of talking about potentially intriguing arms from overseas making their way to Major League Baseball. And this is a guy we've had our eyes on since the World Baseball Classic was last played, obviously, in 2023. Even more so now that his posting to Major League Baseball markets is becoming a reality. Anybody heard of the name Roki Sasaki of late? Yeah, so he is an absolute monster, pretty much. Now, has the same risk as all of the other Japanese guys when they come over from Japan. I think they're all incredibly talented. But he comes with the same risk as all the others. You know, the difference in schedule, the difference in the baseballs themselves, all resulting in them usually sustaining massive injuries to their arms at one point or another. And he obviously carries those very same risks as all the rest before him, and all the rest who will even be after him. But nonetheless, despite all of that, he is a very intriguing option. Firstly, he throws a fastball that regularly, I will tell you, reaches triple digits. Triple digits. So regularly throws 100 miles per hour plus, which, yes, is also an additional risk to injury, but nonetheless very impressive. And he also, alongside that fastball, as if that's not enough in its own right, has a split-fingered fastball and a slider, all of which thrown very hard with stupid amounts of break to them, as you could probably imagine. Now, the one interesting thing about him, as opposed to all the others, is that he is potentially being posted at a much younger age. He is in his early 20s, as opposed to a lot of the other Japanese guys who are usually between the ages of 25 and 30 when they are posted. And because of that, they can immediately come here and request humongous contracts, just like Yamamoto did last year, for instance. Sasaki is not that old. He's only around 23 years old. So because of that, because of his age, he's considered an international amateur free agent. And as of right now, he can only sign a minor league contract worth at the most just a couple of $1 million, which drastically limits how much teams can pay him, since they can't really go over those couple of millions of dollars for him. And it also opens up a lot of competition because a lot of other teams could potentially afford him, if it's just a matter of signing him to a cheaper minor league contract, and that intensifies competition even more, despite their usual preferred stay on the West Coast to begin with. But from a strict money standpoint, that's the effect it has on that. And it also has an effect on the usual associated 20% posting fee that's usually done whenever the Japanese guys are posted to the Major League Baseball markets. But again, because of his age, this will be very interesting to watch for if and or when he is officially posted. Because usually in order to just be able to come here and make big money right off the bat, that usually mandates at least being 25 years old with 6 years played in a foreign league, which he does not have as of yet. So, it'll be very interesting to see how an international amateur stud breaks into coming to America and ultimately becoming a Major League Baseball player like all the rest would like to. So, I definitely think the Yankees have to at least look at this guy. This was mainly what I was talking about earlier when people were talking about potentially improving the starting rotation, especially if it comes to not even really having to sign him to big money at all when he first comes here, and you could develop him a bit in the minor leagues before calling him up ultimately. Well, there's really no harm in doing that if you're the Yankees or just about anybody else. You probably have to present something at least a little bit more appealing than usual to get them to come to the East Coast, especially these days with how they've been signing with the West Coast more often, a lot of the Japanese guys. And from a geographical standpoint, obviously it makes sense. It's closer to Japan. But nonetheless, the Yankees at least have to talk to this guy. There's no doubt about it. Can never have too much pitching. It's a very good problem to have if you do. And having a stud like that in your system and ultimately, hopefully, on your team, despite all of the injury risk that comes along with it, we know that. I mean, you got to at least bark up the tree. I mean, if you're not, then what are you doing? So that'll be very interesting, and my eyes have been on him since we saw him in the World Baseball Classic almost 2 calendar years ago. But I do really hope the Yankees talk to him. Be a very, very good arm to have around, and an unpredictable stud given his arsenal, his actual stuff. Just as front line of split fingers you could possibly imagine. Devastating slider and a flamethrower fastball. I mean, come on. So that'll be absolutely awesome. Keep our eyes glued to the Roki Sasaki potential market. Then you jump to the next week, and it came to awards being given out, obviously. The week of the 11th, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto expectedly both took home Silver Sluggers. And it was also announced that they were both MVP finalists, as completely expected. So congratulations to them both winning Silver Sluggers. Yeah, there you go. Bunch of round of applauses today. And also, again, they also both finished as MVP finalists to absolutely nobody's surprise. One thing that was a surprise that would come 3 days later on the 14th, Thursday, was that we knew the situation with, unfortunately, how much Hurricanes Helene and Milton absolutely just demolished Florida weeks and weeks ago. We knew that one of them actually ripped off the roof of Tropicana Field, the dome. It's like completely destroyed still, even now. So the Rays are not going to be able to play there in 2025, which is crazy. But the thing that did surprise everybody was that on the 14th, on Thursday, just a little piece of extra news pertaining to the Yankees and the Rays actually came to an agreement that George M. Steinbrenner Field, which is the Yankee spring training complex, as we all know, it's actually going to host the Rays in the regular season for 2025. It's probably the nearest complex to Tropicana Field. Obviously, it's in Tampa, so that helps as well. A lot of the other spring training parks are spread throughout other parts of Florida, but George M. Steinbrenner is probably very close to it within Tampa. So the Yankees and Rays came to an agreement that it'll be the host for their home games, which is really crazy to think about because the Yankees see the Rays pretty often. Obviously, they're a divisional opponent. And whenever the Yankees have a road game against them, it'll feel very much like a home game because it'll be at George M. Steinbrenner Field. So we'll actually be seeing GMS Field beyond spring training in 2025, which is going to be pretty weird. But that's the agreement that they came to. And this is actually, turns out, it's going to gain the Yankees an extra about $15 million in additional revenue this coming season per the agreement. So that's very interesting there. And it could definitely be viewed as more money to throw at Soto. A lot of people have said that could be. Who knows? But a very interesting agreement that I did not expect. Obviously, it's mutually beneficial for both sides. The Rays get somewhere to play, not too far from Tropicana Field. The Yankees get additional revenue in hosting them. So we'll see what happens when it actually starts to take place during 2025. It'd be really interesting to see, like, the staff around the stadium having to cover up all the Yankees stuff for the Rays being there, having to put up Rays stuff and whatnot. Definitely be interesting. So that's the latest with that. The Rays will be playing at GMS Field. Super interesting for this coming season. It was also announced from WFAN that there will officially be a new John Sterling replacement for Yankee games on play-by-play. And honestly, full pun intended, I think that they hit an absolute grand slam on this one. Turns out that they actually got Dave Sims to be the new play-by-play commentator on the radio in John Sterling's place. Every day on the Fan. Now, for those who don't know who Dave Sims is, just look him up on the internet. You will see him being the play-by-play for the Seattle Mariners. And he is very talented. Absolutely awesome. I'm so happy about this move. I've heard him for years on Mariners radio. He apparently has some sort of history in the past in New York, so this won't be his first time being here necessarily, even though he's not from here per se. And I think it's an awesome move. Just listen to any one clip that had him very enthusiastic on any given Mariners play, and you'll see how awesome he is. So I'm actually really looking forward to hearing him on Yankees radio, and being the counterpart to Susan being on color, I think they're going to mesh very well together. So honestly, I thought this was a huge decision for WFAN, and I think they delivered. They definitely delivered. So I'm very much looking forward to Dave Sims taking over on play-by-play. That's going to be awesome. And also on Thursday, a lot happened on Thursday the 14th. Aaron Judge, again, and this offseason, he's taken home a lot of awards. Took home the Silver Slugger along with Soto before. Now, here on the 14th, he took home the Hank Aaron Award alongside Shohei Ohtani. So very much mirroring the MVP picture, obviously, since they each won that in their own respective leagues, too. Spoiler alert for what I'm about to say in just a minute. But, yeah, Judge and Ohtani both deservedly taking home the Hank Aaron Award. And then you fast forward to Monday the 18th, just 6 days ago, as we get closer to present day, as we're catching up here, more award announcements. It was announced that Luis Gil won the Rookie of the Year. Yeah, definitely another round of applause. Now, this was a pleasant surprise because, honestly, I was not expecting Gil to win. A lot of people were expecting Austin Wells to win. I actually thought that Wells amongst the three candidates, because very much like the MVP race with having two Yankees in that as well in the top three with Judge and Soto. In the Rookie of the Year race for the American League, I thought the three best Rookie of the Year candidates were Gil, Colton Cowser, and Austin Wells. So another instance of two Yankees being in the top three for Rookie of the Year in another category other than just MVP. And I actually would have voted for, and I don't think Gil's a bad choice necessarily, but if I had a vote myself, I'm going to be honest, I would have voted for Colton Cowser. Cowser is my Rookie of the Year winner, with Gil being a somewhat close second. So, again, I don't think it's a bad choice, but I'm just full disclosure, and this should show you, amongst all the other tons of examples in the past, too, that I am not biased or subjective to the Yankees. But Cowser was honestly my pick to win it. But I am so happy. It doesn't mean I'm any less happy for him. I'm so happy that Luis Gil got to experience this extreme joy, this honor of winning Rookie of the Year. It is such a prestigious accomplishment, one that most do not get to experience. And he definitely deserves it. Definitely. I mean, he had over 15 wins. The ERA wasn't bad necessarily. High strikeout guy, electric stuff. Definitely too many walks and would make you sweat a lot and wouldn't go as deep into games as you would have liked for him to at times. Definitely has his cons to him, particularly surrounding the too many walks and throwing too many pitches out of the strike zone and getting himself into a lot of unnecessary trouble. And that's just stuff that he's going to hopefully continue to improve on the more he pitches. But yeah, the ERA could have been better, but you forget he had that really bad start against Baltimore, and you can't take it away because it happened. But if you do take that away, because he allowed 7 runs that day, you take that away, the ERA, just with that alone taken away in itself, is significantly improved. And people also forget, when they're saying that he didn't deserve this at all, people are also forgetting another very key fact when it comes to Luis Gil. He did all of this in his rookie year because this was his rookie year since he pitched so little in 22 before getting hurt and missing all that time all the way up until this past season in 24. People forget that he missed all of that time. He had Tommy John surgery. He missed so much time and was shelved for so long. To come back and not only actually make it through the entire year, pitching 150 innings plus, but doing it the way that he did, despite the occasional wildness. I mean, more often than not, much more often than not, he was very successful and a devastating pitcher. Doing that, especially given the amount of time he missed, makes it even more impressive in my book. So again, not a bad pick at all. Just wasn't my number one pick to win Rookie of the Year. But again, doesn't make me any less happy for him. He definitely deserves it, and I'm thrilled that he gets to experience something like this, winning the Rookie of the Year. So congratulations to Luis Gil. Awesome news that he actually managed to take this award home with him. And then on Thursday, if you fast forward another couple of days, and obviously Thursday, as I said before, is the same day I took my exam. So if you factor in the fact that I passed my exam, and this was one of the better days of my entire life, and then this also takes place here. Well, Thursday was a pretty fine day, one might say. But Thursday was announced that alongside Ohtani, of course, winning in the National League, that Aaron Judge unanimously, earning every single first-place vote, expectedly won the American League MVP. So it is his second MVP, obviously, after he also won in 2022 after a 62 home run season. Arguably, very well could be his third, because he was factually in 2017 robbed. If you look at all of the stats between him and Altuve, he owns the advantage in the vast majority of offensive stats, let alone how terrifically he was and always has been defensively, even though that doesn't even need to be said, even though that might sting a little bit for people to hear given what happened in Game 5. But nonetheless, it's still the objective truth that despite one mistake, no matter how devastating it was, he's still a very good defender in more than one position even. So, obviously some people could even argue that this very well could be and even should be his third MVP. But nonetheless, it is his second. He is now a multi-time MVP award winner as of earning this award yet again, like he did 2 years ago. And again, even though there's a very sour taste in the mouths of many, and mine included, it doesn't mean you can't be happy that, he won another huge award and still celebrate his regular season accomplishments, because even if it's still very fresh in our minds what happened throughout the entire postseason with him, more or less, and especially in Game 5, at the culmination of everything, it's not the wrong thing to still remember that he was a humongous reason why they even made it to the playoffs in the first place, and why they made it to the playoffs for the vast majority of his time in the majors so far in his career. What he has meant to them at least making the playoffs and giving them that chance to compete each and every year. So, I think it's okay to still be sick to your stomach over the World Series, rightfully so, and still be able to celebrate this. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So, Judge winning yet another MVP. Congratulations to the captain, of course. That is still huge. And then really just to end things off here, just some arbitration news, some tendering or non-tendering and some avoiding arbitration. The Yankees did manage to avoid arbitration with Trent Grisham, signing him to a 1-year, $5 million contract. And he can also make an extra $250,000 in bonuses, depending on his amount of plate appearances. So there's that as well. They also avoided arbitration on a 1-year deal with JT Brubaker, who the Yankees acquired earlier on in the year, and they never saw him pitch because they acquired him when he was injured, and he never ultimately ended up coming back. So we'll see what, if any, role he ends up playing on the 2025 team. I don't really see why he should play any role whatsoever beyond the bullpen, or if just everybody gets hurt. I don't really see what other role he could or even should have, because he's also just not a very good pitcher throughout his career at all. But they avoided arbitration with them both. They non-tendered John Birdie and Tim Meza, so they'll be hitting free agency. So non-tendering them both, but avoiding arbitration with Grisham and Brubaker. So that's the latest on those fronts, and I do think it's good to have Trent back, even though some people don't feel the same way. You have his defense, and also he has that weird clutch gene in him. He's got a stroke of power to him as well. And just a good extra outfielder to have around, honestly, in my opinion. So I'm perfectly fine with him being brought back. I'm a little confused with Brubaker, but it's whatever. Maybe he'll play a role. We don't know. Anything's possible. But that really, guys, is all the Yankees news and news in general. A lot happened in the last 3 weeks. I mean, a lot of time did pass since the last time we spoke, so I would expect quite a bit to happen. It'd be weird if it didn't. But nonetheless, we are fully caught up in that regard, guys. A lot going on, and a lot of that stuff resulting in a lot of the discussion we've been hearing throughout the Yankee community, even though, yet again, a lot of it is centering around Juan Soto, of course, which leads me to the social media segment as we begin to wrap up today's episode already. I know it goes fast. But open-ended question for today, as usual. I mean, more often than not, at least. But the question for today was, when and where do you believe Soto will ultimately sign? Very straightforward. It's what everybody was talking about and still is talking about. It's very overused at this point. I know a lot of people are probably annoyed at having to answer it once again, but hey, I haven't done an episode since right after the World Series ended, so what do you want from me? Me, well, before I at least partially answered this question, as far as the when, at least, I do not think it goes beyond the winter meetings. I could very well be wrong about that, but I do think he signs during or before the winter meetings. I do not think it'll drag on as long as some other free agencies do. And it would be best if it didn't, because we know that these big potential deals with these huge names often tend to just lock the market up until the ice is finally broken and that big move is finally made. So hopefully it doesn't go on too long, and I don't think it will in Soto's case. As far as the where, I did say this a bunch of weeks ago, and I'll say it again. I do think really the only points of contention, the only two teams that are really going to sign him, I think it's between the Yankees and the Mets still. I think either way he's going to be staying in New York. I do have to give the Yankees a slight edge, though. I'm choosing to believe in the fact that Soto really did love it with the Yankees here. He really gelled with this team, really formed special bonds with them, got to go really far, got to go to the World Series. I mean, people can talk about the easy path they had getting there as if that means even a damn thing in the mind of any Yankee fan. Or if any other fan base had their team get to the World Series with this quote-unquote easy path, they wouldn't care either. All they would care about is that their team got to the freaking World Series. So that's what I'm going along with, too, because, I mean, easy path or not, the opposition that makes it there is still there for a reason, and they deserve to be there. I mean, it's not the Yankees' fault that the American League just happened to be weaker than it had been in years. I mean, what are you going to do? You don't go to the World Series there, you're laughed at. You go there, you're still discredited because it was quote-unquote easy. Again, it goes back to the argument that I've been saying for weeks now. It's a lose-lose. You can never win. So you might as well just not waste your time with any of that stupid-ass noise and just enjoy the fact that your team made it to the World Series, easy path or not. It doesn't matter. So, but if you're Soto, you got to see that, and it gives you the potential to have at least another shot at winning a title, even if the National League has the advantage over you. At least you're still getting more of a chance than anybody, at least being proven the fact that the 1 year you were with the Yankees, you still found yourself back in the World Series for the first time since you were a National. And I think he formed some good bonds here, whether it be with the fans. The fans loved him. They chanted at him to re-sign and chanted at the Yankees organization to re-sign him for weeks and weeks and weeks, straight through to the very end. And he found that very humorous. He had a great rapport with the fans in right field and fans in general. I believe he formed a lot of special relationships and friendships with people within the clubhouse, whether it be on the Yankees staff or his fellow teammates. And I'm not really even sure if the Yankees are going to be the ones to offer him the most. But a lot of people are saying he's just going to go to the place where the most money is, and maybe they're right. And if that's the case, then that gives the Mets a lot of an advantage, too, because I'm not sure Hal will go higher than Steve Cohen ultimately. I'm not sure, because, again, I don't care for all the rumors as much as some other people do. We'll see what ultimately happens. I personally don't see the Yankees going much higher than maybe 640 or 650. I don't see them going higher than that. And some people may even consider that to be a bit high from what they expect. And that's fine. And if Steve Cohen's willing to go beyond that, then you know what? Bless his heart. I don't really know what to say at that point. Either way, I'm not looking to make any excuses for the Yankees. They have to hold on to him no matter what. He is that important to them, no matter what other people may tell you. I think it'll be with the Yankees ultimately. I believe that he will make the decision to stay here after having been here for a year and having the experiences that he did, forging the bonds that he did, and having the success that he had more so than almost any other year in his career so far, at least from a statistical standpoint. I think he's ultimately going to choose to stay in the Bronx. It's entirely possible that he goes to the Mets, and I do think that that is the team with the next best chance. I don't think the Dodgers are going to get him. I don't think the Blue Jays are going to get him. Certainly not the Blue Jays. I don't think the Red Sox are going to get him. I don't think he goes anywhere else after that. I think it's just mainly the really big market teams that even have a remote chance at it. And I think the Yankees and the Mets are the main ones. So either way, I think he stays in New York, but I trust him to stay in the Bronx, even if it's for a little bit less money, even if people disagree with that, saying, oh, it's all about the money with him, don't be fooled. We'll see. Ultimately, we're not Juan Soto. We are not in his head. We are not in his inner circle. We are not the Yankees talking to him and potentially negotiating with him. We don't know at the end of the day. So, We shall see. But I do believe it'll wrap up no later than the end of the winter meetings, and I do trust that he will remain in the Bronx. I could be very wrong on one of or both of those things. That's what I feel. Let's see what some of you have to say before we wrap this show up for the day. At Mike B underscore 923 says, I'm hoping it's with the Yankees, although part of me also feels he may be a Met. I say he signs right before the winter meetings begin. Yeah, honestly, again, with the timing, like I said, I'd be surprised if it goes past the winter meeting, so I agree with that. Hoping it's with the Yankees, and yeah, I do give him the slight edge because he did spend a year here and he had the experience that he did here. It's very possible he could be a Met, who knows? And I will be looking for a rope and a chair if that happens, but it's very possible. At Laura underscore Icemont, my buddy Laura says, I'm confident he'll re-sign with the Yankees. I think he'll sign during or after the winter meetings. All right, so I don't know if I'm necessarily confident he'll re-sign with the Yankees. I do think he'll be back here. I just don't know how confident I am, ultimately. But I do definitely think it'll be during or before the winter meeting, so that's where we have a difference there. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't really know. Like I said, we'll see. Next, we have at Crusaders BBNY saying 65% confident it's the Yankees. Honestly, I'm probably in agreement with that. Because, like I said, I'm not, completely confident, but I would give it a slight edge over 50-50. So I think 65 is a good percentage. That's pretty accurate. Good job there, bro. I'll agree with that. 65%. Rebecca at Peace Now for Life says, Hi, Mike. Hey, Rebecca. So happy you're back this week. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think Soto will sign with the Yankees, and I think it'll be during the winter meetings. Bring him home, Hal. Damn well better bring him home. So during the winter meetings. Okay, so we agree on the Yankees and possibly during. Yeah, that'd be crazy. The winter meetings are usually really exciting, even on the years where not much ultimately ends up happening. There's always excitement heading into it at the very least, and that happening there, that'd be one of the better winter meetings to date, especially from a Yankees standpoint. God, I hope that happens. At AlexGNYC1 says, I will say the theatrics of the winter meetings is when Soto signs. I don't see the Yankees letting him go. All right, so 2 in a row saying potentially during. I definitely think that's possible. And you don't see the Yankees letting him go. My God, from your lips to God's ears. Lord, hear our prayers, even though we are not in charge currently. At Fundamentals NYY says, I think he'll go to the team that gives him the most money, which could be the Mets. I think he'll sign before Christmas during the winter meetings. All right, so a lot of people saying potentially during. Again, that'd be awesome. I would love that. Could be for the most money, like you said, but again, we don't know. We just don't know. In this day and age where it's all about the business, it's easy to say that. And who knows whether or not to believe Boris and Soto's people in saying he really does prioritize winning over anything. It's easy to say that's a lie. And it's also easy to just, maybe perhaps in denial or something else, trust the people when they say that. Either way, we don't know how it's ultimately going to play out. And if all the offers do end up being made public after his official decision is made, then we'll see how right we all were and what it truly does ultimately come down to. So nervous. I mean, who wouldn't be? At Yanks Homer 72 says, I believe he signs with the Yankees, $650 million, 12 years with multiple player opt-out years. Yeah, I'll say with the Yankees, of course. Yeah, I really don't think it goes over that 650. I think that's the absolute max of what the Yankees will be willing to sign him at. 12 years, that'd be pretty solid. I'd be okay with that. Again, he's 25 going on 26, and he'd be 37, 38 by the time it's over. That's fine. It's not even going to be 40 yet. I'm okay with that. Plus opt-outs, yeah, especially with a contract that long, there will definitely be an opt-out option. I'll be shocked if there's not. So I'm pretty much in agreement with that. I think those are good numbers. 12, 650 with an opt-out, at least one. I don't really see there being more than one, but I'd be shocked if there isn't at least one. So that's actually good. That'd be a solid deal. And I would hope that'd be enough to bring him back. At Bart Acucello 1 says, still think he returns to the Bronx in the next 2 weeks. All right, so that could definitely be at the winter meetings as well, possibly. I actually didn't even see when the winter meetings are supposed to start this year. Let me check that out. I didn't officially look that up at any point. 2024 winter meetings will take place in Dallas from December 8th to the 12th. Okay, so there you have it. I didn't really look up those dates before now, if I'm being really honest, but just being fully transparent with you. But yeah, December 8th, so that's pretty much exactly 2 weeks away, more or less. So, could very well be. And I'm in agreement with that. At Grant_Hathaway9 says, 80% confident he'll re-sign with us the day winter meetings start. The day they start. Damn. That'd especially be awesome. At Sneaker2Speaker says, if the Yankees don't have a contract by the GM winter meetings next week, that probably means they will not sign Soto. It probably means that Hal was far short of 700 plus and 12 years. I mean, again, I don't see the Yankees going up to 700. I could be wrong. I don't see them doing it. Even though I don't see it going beyond the winter meetings, I definitely don't think that just because it goes beyond it, that they won't re-sign him. It's definitely possible that it goes beyond and they still do. I don't really see that as being an indicator. I just happen to be saying when I think it'll happen, and I think they could possibly get it done during it or even before it. But I don't think that them passing without him signing here just automatically means it's definitely not going to happen. I don't really agree with that. It very well could. But I don't know. And the winter meeting's in 2 weeks, not next week. A couple more weeks. But yeah, I don't see the Yankees going up to 700, dude. I don't see that. But 12 years is reasonable, I think. And I think that's a good number for him, honestly. Spencer at Musician DMD. Spencer, my friend. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Spencer says, I think the Mets will land him because Steve Cohen is aggressive and ruthless enough to make him the best offer. As discussed by some fans, phone calls from Aaron Judge and other players will have little influence. Of course, I hope I'm wrong and that he'll be back with the Yankees. Yeah, I mean, who knows how much influence it has. I'm sure that they've done any and all recruiting that they possibly could at this point. But, yeah, I hope you're wrong. I also do hope you're wrong, Spencer. There's no doubt that Steve is aggressive. I mean, he has come up short a bit with some signings in past off seasons in the last few years. But I do believe he has his eyes set on Soto primarily, so I wouldn't underestimate him there. But he still does have a bit to prove as far as offering a contract like this. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this contract's on another level from any other ever offered aside from Ohtani. So we'll see what ultimately happens. And everybody knows what's expected of them, even as Hal said, I know what's expected of me. Well, we'll see if you really truly do know what is really expected of you, my guy. But nonetheless, yeah, I wouldn't discount Steve's ability to offer something just out of this world. I mean, who knows? But I would not discount Hal yet either, because ultimately Hal was the one that got it done with Judge a couple of years ago. It wasn't even Cashman, because Cashman's incompetent. But as long as Hal's involved, I won't throw in the towel on the Yankees just yet. I won't. And I'll rely on all of the great experiences that Juan Soto had while he was here. And they did say that their meeting with him did involve a lot of what they could do to further improve the team and a lot of the future, as it should, because, Soto should be assured that he is on a potential World Series championship team, not just a team that makes it to the World Series, which is cool, especially when you're breaking a 15-year drought the way that they did, but that they could win it and actually finish the job next time. So, we will see. A lot of people seem to be a bit unsure, as is to be expected, and is completely fair, honestly. A lot of people still have it leaning that he'll return here, but not quite sure when it'll happen. But I think a lot of others are also pretty confident that the winter meetings are a pretty definitive indicator as to how things will go. And I do think, along with many others apparently, that it will happen either even before, within the next 2 weeks, or during the winter meetings, which again would be wild. Especially if it's during. That'd be one of the biggest pieces of breaking news of the winter meetings in a very long time. Very, very long time. All right. Last two, as always. First up is my girlfriend at Vic Salimo. Bless her beautiful little heart for putting up with me the way that she did before my exam. But she said regarding Soto, I think he'll stay with us, but I'm not sure when he will sign. All right, so another prediction of Soto staying here, but not sure when, which is entirely fine. It's hard to predict. So, another one believing that he is staying put. Last but certainly not least is my mother, Julia Gina Scudero. And she says, hi, Mike, so glad you're back. Thank you, Mom. I've missed my Yapping Yankees, but I understand the need for the break. Thank you. To answer your question, I believe that Juan Soto will actually stay with the Yankees. seeing as Soto recently just gave them last dibs in his last round of meetings with all the teams. I think at this point it's up to Steinbrenner to pay him more than any other team offered prior to our offers, potentially. I believe he'd stay. I hope he stays. That's my thought on it for now. I hope I'm right. I think he'll also be offered around $700 million. Well, yeah, I've said that I do not think the Yankees are going to go that high. Again, I could be completely wrong. I don't have any inside sources or anything like so many others claim to have ridiculously. I do not claim to have that. But like you, yes, I also do hope that you are correct as far as him remaining with the Yankees, obviously. It does mean the world to the team again, regardless of what some others may say. But it looks like a lot of us are on the same page. The only other team, really, in the eyes of many that I have seen, like on this show, like many others have said, that seems to be in contention with the Yankees for Soto's services seems to be the Mets. It'll be very interesting because that's quite the battle for the soul of New York baseball, I think it's safe to say. So we'll see how it goes as time continues to move along. It could happen within this next week. It could happen the week after that. It could happen during the winter meetings. We simply do not know. We're going to have to wait and see, guys. But in the meantime, we generally and vaguely hit on the biggest talking points of the Yankees for this offseason, I think it's safe to say, especially Juan Soto and our potential predictions for what will happen for him going forward. A lot of personal updates. We're all caught up on just about everything that has happened since the last time we spoke, so I do think that now's a good time to not only, as always, thank you very much for listening to yet another Yapping Yankees episode, especially the first one in 3 weeks, if you made it all the way to the end here after another hour and a half. Even though it's an off-season episode, still going this long, had a lot to talk about and catch up on, that's for sure. But want to thank you so much for listening yet again here today. Hope you enjoyed listening to the show as much as I did recording it. And I also want to especially thank those who always interact with the social media segment. Whether or not I get to your reply, you know that I love you to no end for taking the time out of your day to not only listen to this show, but also participate in it. But also the fact that it is just about that time that we wrap up the show and say that that is all for episode 243 today, my friends. But before I go, just remember a couple of really quick reminders, as always, to follow me on all social medias if you do not already. Facebook fan page, Mike Scudero NY. My Twitter or X is at Mike Scudero. My Instagram is at Mike Scuds97. Subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 of the platforms it is available on. That's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment wherever it is that you may be listening to show your love across all of the platforms like you all always do such a great job at doing, my friends. And if you have any time on your hands to listen back to any past Yapping Yankees episodes that you might have missed, well, episodes 1 all the way up to episode 243 today, all 243 episodes of Yapping Yankees the last 5.5 years. If you want to listen to any of them at all, they are all available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're a YouTube listener, that's fine too. Episodes 34 up to episode 243 today, those can all be found on there. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my good people, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again in 2 Sundays. Again, unless something major happens within the next week, like Soto signing or something like that. But otherwise, we'll yap once again in 2 Sundays on December 8th, when I come at you with episode 244 of Yapping Yankees as we begin to enter the home stretch of the year of 2024, if you could believe that. But until then, guys, as always, hang in there. Be patient. Please stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week, as always, my friends. And we'll see if in this upcoming week, through to Thanksgiving, and also next week, we'll see how much more the Major League Baseball and or Yankees specifically hot stoves may or may not heat up. But also in the meantime, again, like I said in the open of the show, I do hope that each and every one of you out there has a very happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving this Thursday. Be sure to eat a lot, but not overeat. Be responsible. You know the deal. Or at least I hope you do. But in the meantime, I look forward to yapping with you once again in 2 weeks, my friends. Take care, and let's go Yanks.